Welcome to the after party. Welcome to the after party. Did you bring some snacks and treats? I hope you got me something to eat. Welcome to the after party. Coming to the after party. I've been waiting here all day to act like a fool this way. Welcome to the after party. Join us in the after party. Oh, chatting and gabbing, maybe some microphone grabbing at the after party. Welcome to the stream. As you can tell from the intro, that means that Paigey is not here today, and that is because he is sick, aka he probably didn't want to talk about this week's episode of The Flash. No, I'm just joking. As you've been listening to his videos, he lost his voice, so he's unable to be here because he can't speak. He'll probably be in the chat trolling, but he's not going to be here in the stream today. But I do have Lance and a voice you're going to recognize, who's not on camera down below me.
Crikey, everybody, it's Paigey here.
Yeah, that was really bad. That's Canada Graphs coming to you live and
What
direct
do you mean?
from the WB Public Relations Department to try and figure this all out. Before we get started today, I do have a Team Eric member chat from Flash Freak 580. Goes, would you rather watch Ben's new movie coming out or Arrow season 4 and Flash season 5? So Ben's movie individually or Arrow 4 and Flash 5? Which one would we rather watch?
At least I know what Arrow 4 and 5 will be. I will take what I know as being not great over what could possibly be worse.
There we go. I don't know. I think it's like, what is it? Murder? No. I can't remember the name of it. It's something around the corner. I don't know. It's on
Monel around
Twitter.
the corner.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. I saw him post up about it, and I think I retweeted it. I'm not sure, but anyway, I don't know what it is. I don't know what his movie's about. It's some type of like murder mystery or something. All right, so we have a few things to discuss today. To say a few things, but the first thing I want to address, I got my notes in front of me here, is as you guys have noticed, if you have been subscribed for a while or you're a new subscriber, I started doing a lot of shorts on my channel, and there's some people asking about those. I started a couple of weeks ago, and the reason why I did those, or the reason why I started adding to my channel, well, there's two reasons. Number one is I don't want to make a 10-minute video about 30 seconds of news. That's number one. I don't want to sit here and talk for 10 minutes about something that will take me like 45 seconds to talk about. So that's one of the reasons. The other is when it's breaking news, if I do it as a short, I can get it out as soon as I see it. Whereas if I do a full video, it takes time to film the video, render the video, edit the video, make a thumbnail, upload the video, and then breaking news is 3 hours later. So shorts are much easier for me to do that. So that's why I'm doing them. The second is smaller channels, channels under like 100K subs benefit a lot from shorts because it brings more eyes to their channel. So it helps the channel grow a little bit. So for me, it's a combo of two things. If I had one negative thing to say about shorts, I hate that it's included in my regular channel videos. I wish it was a separate tab for that. Maybe that's what they're going to do down the road. I don't know, but let me know what you guys think about the shorts in the comments here in the live stream and on playback, because I am curious what people think about those. I enjoy doing them. They're really easy to do. Plus I can do skits and stuff, which I don't really get to do a lot on my regular channel. So it's fun. Shorts it's a whole new world for me on my channel. All right, before we talk about the big news, and I'm not going to show the video here, but I am going to talk about it a little bit. We finally got the body cam footage from the Ezra Miller arrest back in March. And if you guys have not seen it yet, I'm going to tell you, go to TMZ, either on TikTok or Twitter, and I'm pretty sure you can just type in like Ezra Miller arrest. It was quite odd.
Yeah.
Because Ezra was saying that they love to film their arrest so they can sell it as NFT crypto art.
Yeah. The funniest part for me is what he said. He said, "I am what did he say? LGBTQ non-binary or something, and I don't want to be searched by a man."
Yeah, it was
what I said. I get it, but
right.
What?
But that wasn't the only thing. There was a lot of really kind of wild stuff happening in that video.
Yeah.
And I don't know what WB is going to do about all this, but this just does not look really good for their studio right now with all of this coming out. Now, also, I want to frame this. This was not a new video. This is the one from like all the way back at the end of March when like the first bit of news started coming out of like I believe this was the incident with the dartboard and the karaoke situation. I think that's what this was from. Yeah,
because somewhere in the video they did mention dartboard.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. My fan is making weird noises. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the video's out there circulating. It's a little wild. I don't know what to make of all this. In the chat, and I'm curious what you, CG and Lance, think about this. What are the odds that they are going to move in a different direction after the Flash movie comes out based on all of this? Do you think that's actually going to happen, or do you think it's just going to be business as usual for WB? What do you think?
Well, with their baby company, the CW saying business as usual, I have no clue what they're gonna do. I'm just sitting back and waiting because their definitions of business as usual is oddly different this year. So, for all we know, the rumor about Dylan O'Brien can be true. I don't.
Can you confirm that, WB public relations rep? Can you confirm that?
I cannot confirm or deny any allegations or rumors at this time.
If you're a showrunner, you just lie. So there's that. So,
I'm not a showrunner though.
Right.
So here's the thing. I don't see a path forward right now with Ezra Miller staying on in that role in the future. Now, that said, there were some things that were said in that video that if some or all of that is true, and you're WB, you're looking at that going, Ezra might have been out of line, but he's not as out of line as it was made to be when all of this first appeared.
Right. So you're saying the video may actually help Ezra?
It might, but there would need to be evidence of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. But I am curious what the chat thinks, or if anybody would want to see Ezra replaced. I know there's a lot of Ezra fans that just want them to stay in the role. They're like, we want Ezra in the role, and that's it. Brandon S, Team Eric member for 2 months, says, "What's up, guys?" What is up, Brandon? How are you doing? Good to see you. Staggervore, this is a good segue into our main topic today. $4.99 super chat. Well, that sure was a bloodbath for the CW on Thursday. I want to say this. It was a bloodbath for every network, and we have to keep that in mind. Yeah. I think the CW resonates with us because we pretty much talk about CW, but it was almost a record-breaking day for cancellations across all of the networks.
It's Hell Week. That's
ABC lost shows, CBS lost shows. I think NBC, I think Fox is the only thing that didn't cancel a bunch of shows.
Fox canceled one show that was rumored to be canceled a while ago. They just confirmed it, but they did pass on quite a few pilots.
So they just decided not to pick anything up, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
or they passed on a lot of things.
They passed on a lot of things, and then even over at ABC, they're recasting for 2 different pilots that were backdoor pilots. They're recasting for some of those, which is unheard of. So, hey, I called it months ago. So that's all I'm saying.
I have a bit of a theory on why this year seems to be a little more extreme than other years. So for the last 2 years, we've been working in a COVID world.
Yes.
And I think there was some safety to shows in that time where they were kind of we don't know what next month could bring us, so we're just going to stick with what we already have in line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's off now. We're back almost to, how it was 3 years
They're
ago.
making up for 2 years at this point of 2 years of
They're canceling things that maybe they would have canceled last year had we been in a more normal time.
Yep.
Yeah.
People seem to forget that, though.
And I know people are saying that CW canceled a record amount of shows, but they also are adjusting. Their network is in a weird spot because they're adjusting to their parent company stuff. They're adjusting to the stuff with selling off the service to another owner. There's a lot of stuff happening at CW that's not happening with NBC, ABC, CBS. Fox, if you remember when Fox got acquired by Disney, there was a lot of weird stuff that happened too. So it's going to happen when these sales start going on. Okay, so there's a lot of articles. We were sent on Twitter, probably, I would say at least a half dozen different articles about why this all happened. So what we're going to do is just to save time, because this stream would be like 6 hours if we talked about every single article. I have one article from the Hollywood Reporter, which contains the majority of information that we need to talk about. And then we will each individually can talk about stuff that we heard other places like TikTok, showrunners, things like that. So we're going to read through the article. As we get to certain points, if Lance or Canada Graphs has something they want to add from another article, we'll talk about it at that point. But I'm not going to pull up every single individual article. There's too many of them. There's too many articles.
Too many.
Naruto here with a Team Eric member for 3 months goes, just like Justice U's chances look a lot better. I think they look a lot worse, to be honest.
Yeah, so do I.
I think Justice U is probably not going to happen. And I know that's...
I'd actually say if there is a chance for Justice U, it would be HBO Max.
Yeah, I don't think CW is going to see many new DC
I feel
shows.
So bad for David Ramsey because he thought he had a safety net of directing jobs, and that was literally down.
Same thing for Katie Lotz. Katie Lotz is directing as well, so it's like, what's going on here? So okay.
Well,
so
I mean, Javicia lost out the biggest. She lost her show, and she was going to get a directing gig next season.
Yeah. Yep. Do you think she's still going to get the directing gig for another show? Or no?
That was a Batwoman directing gig.
No. I mean, do you think they'll give her one for another show though? Like, give her a chance?
Maybe. I mean, who knows what's going on?
Right.
Eric Wallace will have her over there.
Maybe. I don't know. It's easier on your own show because they can kind of say, "Oh, you know about the characters, you know about the story." I mean, that's usually
like a lot of the reason you see people direct on their own show is it's part of a negotiating deal. When they're trying to negotiate their contract, if they're like, hey, I want more money, the production goes, okay, we can give you that more money, but you need to take on more responsibility. And one of those things is a directing gig. It's beneficial for both sides.
Yeah.
Yep. So Katie Lotz too, but Javicia Leslie isn't part of their cast.
Right.
So it's not beneficial to them in the same capacity as if it's a Daniel Panabaker.
Yeah. And we will explain in more detail why I think Justice U is not going to happen after we get through this article, because I think it sort of explains this. The one thing I like about this article is it's not a lot of hyperbole. It's literally just information that they kind of compiled together to help us understand better, like the business side. I got so tired of arguing with people about the business side of this on Twitter. I was like, I'm done. I turned off comments. I was like, I'm just not going to even engage anymore. But this article does a really good job of sort of explaining it in a way that I think everyone can understand. Okay. So I will link this in the video. If you're watching this on playback, it will be linked in the info box if you want to read it yourself. It's a lot, but we're going to go through it. Mad about the CW cancellations, blame streaming, but also the unusual corporate structure. And then we're going to go down here. It goes, the CW canceled more shows, 10 of them, than it renewed, 8, which is weird. They put 10 as the number 10 and they spelled out it anyway. As its total volume of originals slid to its lowest since 2012. At press time, the CW has 11 total scripted shows, not including low-cost acquired content, which, by the way, that's going to be like your reality shows, your stuff that other networks wanted to put on your platform, things that may have aired other places. Anything that was not produced and paid for specifically for the CW, with decisions on 2 shows still to come. As Pleck and scores of other writers and producers learned this week, the free lunches have now come to an end at the CW. Free lunches, that's, I guess they're talking about COVID, the COVID production. As the CW, as its corporate parents, Warner Brothers Television and CBS Studios prepare to divest their stakes in the younger skewing broadcast network they launched as a joint venture in 2006. Now, a couple things to take away from that is that the free lunches, I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're talking about just the renewals they've been getting over the last year or so since COVID was a thing. I believe that's what they're talking about. Right? Or is there something else?
In general, that network has been, not just through COVID, but even before COVID, pretty generous with renewals.
Right.
So I think that's what they're just referring to.
I think it might, do you think it could be a combination of both? Maybe just the fact that it was that way and they were getting early renewals over the last 2 years? Because I think everything was getting, actually the last 3 years, everything's getting early renewals. So there may be more to it than even what we're thinking here, honestly. Okay, it goes, to understand what's happening now at the CW, it's best to look back at why the network was launched in the first place. Warner's and CBS Studios saw the network as a cash cow. That's a very important line here. Both studios would supply low-cost scripted series to the network and cash in with lucrative international rights. Then in 2011, Warner's and CBS Studios added revenue from a $1 billion Netflix streaming deal as the Plex Vampire Diaries spinoff, the originals, and unceremoniously canceled legacies added to a secondary revenue stream. This is really important because we have argued about this for a really long time. And this next paragraph goes into this even further. It was never about the CW making tons of money. It was about everyone involved splitting a very large amount of money on international syndication. That is what we've talked about. We've mentioned it so many times, and people don't seem to understand that. It was never about, for them, at least in the last 8 to 10 years, it's been about streaming and revenue they can make on ads and deals with like Netflix and international streaming platforms. That is the way it's been. And that went away when HBO Max wanted all their cookies in their basket and Paramount Plus wanted all their cookies in their basket. And it talks about that even further here. Let's do this next paragraph. It didn't matter that the CW was never profitable because both studios, then part of Viacom and Time Warner respectively, made money hand over fist via foreign sales and the Netflix output deal.
Yep, it was always about the
did not matter. So every channel, every person out there that's tweeting that the CW was never profitable and that's why they're selling off or whatever, that had nothing to do with it. Nothing. And this is the second time I've talked about this in the after party where I had to pull up another article from like 2016 where they said the same exact thing.
Yeah.
The people that are making content that are pushing that narrative are doing it to make people enraged because it's not the truth. It is not true. Okay.
Can I just cut in for 1 second?
Go ahead,
the best way to look at the CW, it's a term, if you've worked in any type of like retail industry, you've probably heard it, loss leader. They lose money on the CW, but it gets you hooked on their product, and then you find their product elsewhere. They know the CW isn't going to break even. But what they're going to do is they're going to make all this money on the back end because the products, Riverdale, The Flash, all these things are out there being talked about. And if you're somewhere else, you're like, I want to see these shows. And
you know who else doesn't turn over profit? YouTube. YouTube doesn't make a ton of revenue. Yeah, look it up. YouTube does not make revenue like that.
I'm not surprised to hear that. I mean, Netflix, I don't know if it's changed in the last 2 or 3 years, but Netflix, as of a couple of years ago, had never turned a profit.
There are people on YouTube cheering about the fact that the CW doesn't make a profit when YouTube doesn't make a profit. Think about that. Think about that for a second. Absolute idiots. Okay. It goes here. The business model was so lucrative that the CW expanded its original programming on Fridays and Sundays and largely stopped canceling much of anything. The CW canceled or gave a proper farewell to an average of only 3.3 shows during the past decade. So that means ever since this international streaming deal happened, that's what it's been. A far cry from this season's 10. And there's no surprise to me that now that those deals are finally completely done, because they cut them off in 2019, now that all of them are wrapping up with the exception of, I think, Flash might be the last one, and Riverdale.
Nancy Drew.
Yeah, those ones are there. Everything else is coming to an end. In the same time frame, the CW renewed an average of 10.3 shows annually versus 8 this year, while the new show volume 3 is a bit below the norm. So there we go. That explains at least part of the reason why some of these shows had to go. And even further in this article, it explains in more detail why those shows had to go. Let's read on here with the next paragraph. So why then did CW clean house this season? The blame isn't squarely on network CEO Mark Pedowitz. Broadcast's longest tenured network topper reports to a board of comprised execs, we talked about this as well, from Warner's and CBS Studios. CW is a entity that is run by a board of directors from both companies, and they have, it's like 50-50.
And I vividly recall a couple of times somebody who's not here today trying to argue with me that Pedowitz makes all of his own decisions.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I've always believed it was a board of directors. I always believe that.
I always said him and the execs. I always said that.
For example, while Dynasty, and we're going to talk about Dynasty because that's been a very hot topic on social media, has had the distinction of being the broadcast's lowest rated scripted series for years, revenue from the reboot's international sales and the Netflix deal kept it on the air for far longer than its linear numbers deserve. Linear means live. They're live viewing. So after 5 seasons of living life on the bubble that included a wild history of casting changes, why did time run out on Dynasty and so many other CW favorites? Blame streaming, mergers, and CW's impending sales. So it's not one thing. It is a combination of everything. All of the things that people are trying to point fingers at are part of a bigger explanation for why this is happening. It's not like Mark Pedowitz just said no. It's not like WB changed their mind. It's not like Greg Berlanti was like, I'm not doing this. It's not like the actors walked away. It is a combination of all of it. And this does a really good job of explaining what that means here in this next paragraph. Warner's and CBS Studios, now overseen by the newly merged Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount Global, ended the Netflix output deal in 2019 to help boost their respective streaming platforms, HBO Max and Paramount Plus. I want to point out that HBO Max launched in 2020, I believe, and Paramount Plus rebranded in 2021, right after these Netflix deals ended. So they knew this was the plan all along. Even when they did this in 2016, there was probably an inkling of this back then, okay? Foreign sales, too, have dried up. Those rights need to stay in-house as both platforms continue their global expansion to bid to compete with Netflix in the streaming wars. That's a loss, keep in mind, not to CW, but to the production studios and CW. It's a loss of billions of dollars in revenue, making shows like Dynasty, for example, no longer profitable. Without those two revenue streams and amid new corporate ownership, the CW's corporate parents are in active sales talk with the group Nexstar and other potential buyers. Some have pondered if the wave of cancellations impairs the CW's valuation because the network's scripted cupboard is half empty. Not really. Okay, so let's take a pause there and kind of take all this in. So they did the deal in 2011, which allowed them to send all of their shows from streaming directly to Netflix. Then they reevaluated the deal in 2016 because the CW wanted to launch its own like streaming service to throw ads on it. So some of the shows went to Netflix, some went to CW streaming first. And then congratulations, your parent companies have birthed 2 babies. And one of them is HBO Max and the other is CBS All Access, which turned into Paramount Plus. And now they want to ink deals with all of the new shows coming out so that when they are on the CW, they immediately go to them and the CW makes no revenue from that off of the streaming or off of Netflix deals. Yeah. That's huge. Think about that for a second. That is huge. So yeah, we were saying that David Zaslav probably didn't reach down and just delete everything, but the corporate structure kind of did, right? So it wasn't a person, it was more by design that they were not able to make money off of this. So
it was him telling whoever he told, this is my expectations. Whatever doesn't meet those expectations, we just aren't doing anymore.
I actually think it started before him, honestly. I think this was something that started before him.
Yeah,
he might have continued that, but I think this started back when HBO Max started.
It probably did because they were also, I'm sure Warner Brothers, CW, CBS, all three things have been looking at it, and they're like, we have a merger coming up and we have a pending sale coming up. We need to make this look appealing to both of these properties.
Right.
They need to make it look appealing to Discovery. They need to make it appealing to Nexstar or whoever might end up buying it. So they were looking at it going, we need to get rid of the dead weight. you
Right.
know?
Okay, so this is a good time to talk about the video that you shared with me, Lance, before we talk about this next
Mhm.
article, this next paragraph. So you shared a video where the creator, what was his name?
Well, his name is Zeke.
Okay. Had surmised through this theory that the CW being sold to Nexstar was causing a lot of these changes because of the diversity aspect and trying to appeal to like a more middle American, straight white audience is kind of what they were
Yeah,
suggesting in the video.
and
Do you
it's
want to
not
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's not his theory. It's just one that he's heard, and it's also one that I've heard because this has been
I kind of heard it too. Yeah.
this has
So,
been going out since
Mhm.
Legends and Batwoman were
right.
just cast by the wayside. Which
Mhm.
yeah, so it's basically saying that since the Next Star is a more of a for lack of a better word conservative type company. They didn't find it surprising. Well, they do find it surprising, and they don't at the same time, that the only shows that were literally saved, not even because of ratings or how well they do, regardless, were shows with, well, for lack of a better word, straight white leads. Or
Right.
in Riverdale's case, I'm guessing this season they've been dealing with a war between heaven and earth, and apparently Nexstar is a very religious company as
Mhm.
well.
Right.
So they were saying it doesn't surprise them that the only shows that were canceled were one female led and LGBTQ, and mostly that's where all your diversity is too.
Right.
So and that's not I've heard this plenty of times, but I didn't want to believe it. But by it being so many, and I'm not saying that I do, I'm just throwing it out there because everybody else been throwing everything else out there anyway.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's weird.
So I want to pull this up here. I found this. I forgot to bring it up earlier, but I've got it saved in the tab here. Nexstar actually has an inclusive and diversity initiative, and they have an officer in charge of it, who is named here as Courtney Williams. And it goes on to say, as Chief Diversity Officer, Williams will oversee the creation, development, and execution of comprehensive strategic plan to expand Nexstar's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Courtney has a deep understanding and commitment to Nexstar's ongoing diversity and inclusive efforts and helps spearhead some of the Diversity and Inclusive Council's key initiatives, including the introduction of several employee resource groups that were recently launched into our mentorship program. Her leadership and experience to make the ideal person for this critically important. And then it goes on to talk about their core values being inclusivity and diversity and etc. So I'm not saying that this means that they're not doing that, but it seems to me like they do have a diverse initiative within their corporate structure, which leads me to believe that red flags would go up if they thought that was what was happening.
Yeah.
So
but it's like the guy said, he said,
I get it, but they also greenlit Gotham Knights, which includes trans characters and
they were
characters
saying,
of color.
I guess somewhere in the conspiracy theory, they're saying, oh yeah, we're gonna throw them kung fu all American homecoming.
That sounds really
like
good
that.
for what I consider to be rage clicks, people that are upset
Yeah.
about it, and they're like, do I think that could be a factor? I mean, it could, obviously, but I don't think it's the most likely thing. Oh, my internet is acting weird.
Yeah. I agree. It's I think deep down at the end of the day, it's still a dollars and cents thing. If Batwoman,
it's always money.
if Batwoman every episode had Ryan out there waving an LGBTQ flag, but he was getting 7 million viewers a week, they're keeping it.
Yeah. We're having really bad storms now. If my internet's acting weird, I do apologize. Anyway, we'll go on here and say that while the CW is expected to look considerably different next season, expect more low-cost foreign acquisitions and unscripted programming. So reality shows and game shows and stuff that is like you would see on Netflix in the foreign section that nobody really watches except for Squid Games. The network's most watched originals are all returning. The CW gave early renewals to 7 of its 8 returning shows, all of them amongst its highest rated. Sources say Pedowitz wanted to bring back the Greg Berlanti-produced DC Comics drama Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow, but Warner's no longer wanted to pay the leases on the studio space, which expired May 1st and prompted the April 29th cancellations. Plex Legacy is also said to be a financial decision made by the studio. So this is why I'm glad you're here, Canada Graphs, because You live in Canada. You live in Vancouver. What are your thoughts on the studio space story? I'm curious.
Okay. So funny thing, I'd heard, I want to say like 6 weeks ago, a weird story that made no sense at the time. And that was someone had told me the studio that Batwoman and Legends are at is getting taken over by Netflix. Netflix is buying up studio space in Vancouver like their stocks. Like
makes sense.
They bought like 3 like outright. And I'm just at the time I'm just like, well, that's weird because they have 2 shows actively in there. And
when was this that you heard this? When did you hear this?
What, a while ago, 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I wonder if they had already been told back then, like, I don't think we're keeping the lease, and they looked for a new buyer, and Netflix is like, we'll just buy you.
So I assume, I'm going to go out on a limb here. This is not in the article. This is my pure speculation on this. If they were already on the fence about the shows and there was a bidding war on the studio, that may have been
that could be it too, right? Like they could have went, all right, your lease ends on April 1st, and let's say, I'm just using a round number so that we can make a percentage difference. Mm-hmm. Let's say it was $100, an hour or some stupid number. Okay. All of a sudden they come back and they go, it's $150 an hour now. And they're kind of like, that's too much for us.
Right.
Because Netflix is willing to pay $150 an hour.
I actually looked it up, and it is expensive to rent just the space. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Oh, of course it is. I was just throwing that number out because 100 is an easy number for people to visualize.
It's close. I think it said something like, if you're doing it like leasing by the hour, it can go up to almost $400 an hour if you're leasing it by the hour. If you're doing it by a month, you can get it for like $150,000, $200,000 a month. Or if you do it by a year, you get it even cheaper, but it's still not cheap. It's still expensive. Team Forward here goes with a $2 super chat. CW says to the shows its budget's cuts, people power. Well, all right. We got another part here goes. Wait, hold on. Where's that? Okay, the thing here. Legends and Legacies, along with Charmed in the Dark, Roswell, New Mexico, all were part of the Netflix output deal. Now with the network's 3 new series pickup in Gotham Knights, Walker, and Supernatural, the prequel Winchesters. All but 3 of the CW scripted shows, which are Flash, All American, and Riverdale, will be able to stream on the CW's website and streaming app. So that's really important. So what this means is, okay, how can I make this make sense here? So outside of the HBO and Paramount Plus stuff, the new company coming in, if Nexstar does in fact buy the CW, it seems to me that they're going to want to basically outsource production to things they can just put on the CW and not send them to HBO or Paramount Plus. And that's going to be weird because that means we'll probably see less WB and Paramount stuff on the CW in like 3 years. It's probably going to be a lot of like independent studios making content just for the CW because the CW makes a lot of money off of their streaming app, off of ads.
Yeah, which means they are they're basically renegotiating their deal that they originally set when they started talking about the sale, because the whole gist of it was, okay, WB, they're taking their hands off the whole day-to-day of the network. They don't want to have to worry about that. They just want to provide the content. But now it does seem like they're just saying, okay, we're going to step away gradually and just let y'all do what y'all want to do because we might want to just worry about ourselves.
So I think the reason why they want to do a 51-49 split with this, where the new owners own 51% and they own 49%, is they still want to have bargaining chips for putting their content on the CW. That's the reason why. Because I do believe the new owners are not going to want to play in their sandbox. I don't think they're going to have all their shows leave the CW, because look, that's why the CW was not profitable, because it was a shared venture and the money didn't matter. But if a new owner comes in, they're going to want to make money because that's why they're buying the network. So as I said, back when all of this was first announced, the money was never in the CW. Basically, this new company is buying a platform to make whatever they want it to be, because the IPs and the stuff that are on it are what people tune in for. If the CW was named Barking Dog Network, or Let's Go Hang Gliding Network, none of that matters if the shows are the shows you want to watch, right? So they're not buying it for the name; they're buying it for the content and the platform.
Tune into the Flash on Let's Go Hang Glide.
Yeah. All right. There's another little article here. We're going to skip over that and go to the end here. And this is what I think is the most heartbreaking. And this is why I think the hashtag movements and all of that probably don't matter, because they released the Blu-rays for both Legends and Batwoman, and it says final seasons on the Blu-ray boxes. I did a video on that. This is why I think, unfortunately, and I'm not going to tell people what to do, unfortunately, all of the movements probably don't matter. It goes, before you start a petition for the unfortunate shows that met their early demise this week, keep in mind that HBO Max and Paramount Plus cannot save those lucky shows that were able to stay on the air as long as they did, because they were all part of the Netflix deal.
Yes.
That means Legacy, Legends, Dynasty, Charmed, In the Dark, and Roswell could only go to Netflix because Netflix owns distribution for those shows now that they're off the air, meaning they cannot go to Paramount or HBO Max.
Yep.
So all of these petitions to save the show, the only people that could save it right now is Netflix, and it doesn't look like they're interested in any
I do have one point to bring up.
Yeah.
There is one show that's missing from that list.
Oh, which one is it?
Batwoman.
Well, I mean, Batwoman,
because that was an HBO Max show.
It was. Yes, it was.
So
it was,
for the rest of this, 101% correct.
Good. Lance.
I honestly think the only reason Batwoman didn't get renewed is because Berlanti, Mark Pedowitz, his execs, they all sat down and like, look, Batwoman has gone on 3 years. And I honestly believe they started talking about this news about Gotham Knights dropped in December.
Right.
Ruby Rose dropped her epic diss track in October. All right. So they sat down after that first week. They said, hey, look, we want to try to develop Gotham Knights. Nothing to do with the game, yada, yada, yada. It's another Batman IP. We know we're not going to pay for both. So let's just let Batwoman finish this season out, and we're going to go with Gotham Knights.
Right.
It's with Batwoman, it was strictly a money thing. I really wish they would have handled the whole, news better, because it seemed it bothers me how they just threw Legends and Batwoman by the wayside, but gave everybody else a full press release.
Yeah. Yes. Let me say this. I truly believe, and I know there's no proof of this, I'm just going on my gut here, that they knew back when Gotham Knights was announced, because it is a Berlanti production, and it has a lot of the same people from Batwoman and other Arrowverse shows, that they knew they were never going to have both shows on the air at the same time. Yep. And when Misha Collins got cast, that was the end of Batwoman.
Yeah,
that's what I believe.
I mean, I can't remember what week that was, but I remember I was on your live that week, and I basically said at that time, like, Misha Collins on the CW, that's getting picked up.
They love him. They love him.
Yeah, that was the Batwoman stream that we did.
The other thing is, and let me say again, and I want to talk about the whole diversity thing one more time, because I think it is important to sort of like cement this, put this in concrete here, is that with Batwoman, we talked about them doing like a Gotham Power Hour night or whatever, where you get the two shows back to back and it would be Gotham and Gotham. I think this is one of those times where they realized, unlike Naomi and Superman and Lois, that the shows were fundamentally too similar to just have on together. They're both in Gotham. They both have a lot of the same characters. They both have stories about characters going missing and Batman not being around. The shows were just too similar at the core for them to keep on at the same time, which is sad because they should have told everyone on Batwoman the truth before they waited so long to cancel the show. So that's my biggest regret with this.
I wonder what the process was of getting there, because at some point they had to go pitch Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
And Natalie Abrams and that team were still working on Batwoman at the time that it would have been pitched.
Right.
Did the rest of the Batwoman team know that half of their team was just getting up and going to pitch a new show?
That's another interesting thing. I don't know.
I doubt it.
Natalie was a huge part of Batwoman, so the fact that she was connected to Gotham Knights is really weird to me. All right. So I want to share this because there's also a lot of people out there that want you to believe that Discovery doesn't like diversity and they're canceling all these shows because they don't like, people of color and all this other stuff.
That's why I was cleaning house.
Discovery is a huge, diverse and inclusive company, and they have so much information here about it. All this here. I've even highlighted this. Discovery's view of diversity is informed by the notion that everyone is diverse for a variety of reasons, while our employee resource groups are compromised along the lines of traditional diversity with employees who champion them across boundaries. And they have an entire initiative for diversity. They are not anti-diversity. For all the people who said they were cleaning the slate because the shows were diverse shows or whatever, then why did they greenlight Gotham Knights, which is just as diverse and inclusive as any of the other shows that have been on their network? It makes no sense.
So I don't want to be devil's advocate, but I won't. I just always see things like this, and I have to do it. Just because you have something on your site that says we're supportive of ABC, doesn't mean you actually are. You're just doing it as a PR. By the way, I'm not saying you're wrong. Discovery
and
is.
I would say I kind of see what you're saying, except for the fact that Gotham Knights has trans characters and non-binary characters.
No, and again, I have to play devil's advocate when I see a page like that. I see a page like that, and my first thought is that's PR gibberish.
Right, but people want to believe that that's why they did it. The second thing is, if they were cleaning house for the Arrowverse, they would have cleaned house for the Arrowverse. They wouldn't have
they would have still kept the thing. They would still kept the things that were profitable.
But that's what I'm saying. But you're proving my point. People are saying they were trying to get rid of the Arrowverse because it's the Arrowverse. But they had profitable stuff within the Arrowverse, Superman and Lois and the Flash. So if they truly were just about getting rid of the Arrowverse.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I do. I agree with you on that. Okay.
Yeah. So saying that they got rid of the Arrowverse because the Arrowverse is bad is not true. Also, Cody had a comment here that I thought was interesting here. And this says that Naomi is being shopped around. This is the interesting thing about Naomi. Naomi is not a Berlanti production. It is primarily funded by Warner Brothers with Array, which is Ava DuVernay's production company, because she is the person showrunning Naomi. And it's being shopped around because they're not tied to Berlanti. And they can do that if they want. Maybe there's something within the contract that allows them to do that. But I'm actually surprised that Naomi just didn't move to HBO Max, because Naomi is deeply connected to WB, more so than the Berlanti shows, because they gave Ava this show because of what happened with New Gods. So this was like them working with Ava. And this also, if you think about this, then Ava is on good terms with WB. What does this mean for their working relationship? Honestly,
he's probably pissed.
That's what I mean. All the work that went into this show, even though it wasn't my cup of tea, a lot of work went into this show.
Yeah,
they really wanted this show to work. And Ava supposedly had a good working relationship with WB, which, by the way, I want to point out, another thing about Berlanti that a lot of people seem to forget is he has like 2 or 3 shows coming to HBO Max, one of them with Melissa Benoist.
Yeah.
So he's got good connections with them. So whatever happened with these shows, regardless of what we just read, Greg Berlanti is in really good standing with WB. So there's no way that he did not know that WB was going to be like, we don't want to have these shows anymore. If that's in fact what happened, he would have known about it, and he would have had to either fight for it or let it go. And I can guarantee you, since all of the newer deals are tied in with HBO Max money and all of the other streams of revenue from those other shows, like Legends of Tomorrow, like the Netflix deal and everything, once those were being cut and let go, he sat down with his money people, and they're like, we'll make more money off of Gotham Knights and the HBO Max shows than we will off of these remaining hang-on shows, with the exception of The Flash, because The Flash is still a very profitable show for them. And Superman and Lois was inked. That was a deal that happened so late in the game that The Flash is the oldest show left now from the Arrowverse.
Can I?
But it still makes a ton of money. Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody just, Lord Vanderkill just made a comment saying the Arrowverse just stopped being profitable. I don't know if he just came in. I don't know if he, just purposely disregarded everything we just said about content being profitable. But again, if they weren't profitable, they would not have lasted this long.
Look at Dynasty, prime example.
Yeah.
They make their money back in streaming.
Lord Vanderkill, their profit margin was not on the CW. Their profit margin was selling it other places.
Yes.
And they wanted,
as it said in that article, they wanted international syndication and streaming contracts.
They got
that
it.
was
Arrow,
all they
Arrow
did.
is over on Arrow. Shoot, I had picked up DVR recordings from Arrow being restreamed, re-aired on TNT, vice versa. All these other places where you can find these shows, Prime TV, all of that other stuff. They were very profitable in streaming and syndication. That's why they ran so long. They're in the only two Arrowverse shows that ended were Legends and Batwoman. Legends because of the Netflix deal. Batwoman because they weren't going to pay for two Batman IPs. That's why
they would have had to double dip for every character they used in Batwoman with Gotham Knights.
That was a big, I think, stumbling block too that hurt Batwoman's chances.
I mean, Lance, could you see them doing two Julia Pennyworths, two of this character, two of that character?
And that's why everybody, myself included, they were like, we weren't surprised when the adopted son on Gotham Knights is a completely made up character, and they're using
it cost them no money.
Yep, and they're using characters that you don't see in mainstream media. When's the last? This is literally the first time we've seen a Carrie Kelly, and it's a diverse casting at that.
This is how Legends stayed afloat for years.
Like, come on.
That's how Legends stayed afloat for so long. They kept creating new characters. Everyone got mad that they weren't using original characters from the comics, but that would have cost them money that show didn't have the budget for.
Why do you think so many characters on Legends were either lesser known characters or completely made up characters?
Yeah. That's how they kept the show alive. I wanted to go back to one thing you said a few minutes ago about the Ava DuVernay thing and how, the working relationship there.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing. I know you two are old enough to know this. Some of the people in the chat might not, but you remember the fallout with Conan O'Brien and NBC?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. At the time that all that happened, he had 2 productions that were about to go forward with NBC. And someone asked him in one of the interviews, goes, how can you work with the company that did that to you? And he goes, everything is a business. I understand the NBC company themselves didn't stab me in the back. A production team stabbed me in the back. You can still work with NBC, just like Ava DuVernay will still work with CW.
There's a difference, though, because Ava DuVernay's production company made Naomi. It's not another production company. It was actually her company.
Are you... I can't say I know for certain the deals on that one.
Well, WB is listed as an executive producer, and Ava DuVernay's company is the one that actually produced it. And I think Warner Media is listed as well. So if it's her production company, that means the only people that decided not to move forward with Naomi would be Warner Media, because Array Productions is her production company.
Now I can see Warner Media doing that because they had to see Naomi was not.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I see her name on it. Yeah.
It was not doing well week to week.
I can understand. Okay, I can understand your point then. I remembered the Conan thing because I heard you say that, and I'm kind of like, I know the business side of this is a lot of these people, they're frustrated, but they understand business is business, and at the end of the day, they'll work with whoever's going to get them their next paycheck. If you cancel. If you cancel my show that's doing this today, I know 6 months down the road I might get another show with you.
Well, that's why all the showrunners are playing nice on Twitter with CW. So, Lance, what were you going to say?
I was, dang it, I forgot what I was going to say.
It was about Ava DuVernay's production company. Is what we were talking about.
I was saying, it had to be Warner Brothers that gave literally they looked at the profit margins and were most likely like, hey, it's not doing so hot. Maybe this was as we've said, a dumb idea. The character is too new. And honestly, if they couldn't get Wonder Girl to work, what in the world made them think they could get Naomi to work?
Yeah, I agree. Paigey, I cannot confirm or deny a twerk. You'll have to stay tuned in to see if that happens.
What about a nip slip?
I saw that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there. All right, so we had another super chat here. So let's put a fork in this for now, unless somebody wants to super chat about it. That article covers all of the business ins and outs that we know publicly. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but it's safe to say that at this point, it is a combination of things that happen. And do not believe showrunners. Do not believe showrunners. Just go with whatever new article comes out. It's a mess.
Yeah,
but
it's a big mess.
We kind of understand now that it's about what? Money. It's always going to be
money.
About
That's
money.
why the flash is still on, so they could put Jacob Birch on there to say, "Give me my money."
JS Trucking Guitars with a $5 super chat. Okay, there's a bit of disconnect, but what are your opinions on the Halo TV series? Is anybody else watching that?
No,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil it. I am watching it. I play a lot of video games. I've never ever played Halo. I'm not into first-person shooters because I get motion sickness. So for me to play that would be very difficult. So have not played it. Don't know a lot about it. As someone who has not played the game, I think the show is fairly interesting and it's gotten much better. The latest episode was pretty solid. But people that like the game are probably going to be a lot more critical because there's probably a lot of lore and stuff that's not included from the game on the show. So for me, I'm enjoying it, but again, I'm not the normal audience. I'm one of the people that never played the game. So, all right. Somebody said we're going to talk about the Naomi finale. I don't really see a reason to, honestly.
I have not watched it.
The show's not continuing, but I do know that they screwed up the Superman connection, apparently. And they also set it up on a cliffhanger.
I heard her parents were.
They killed her parents. Basically.
Yeah, I'm like, why would y'all? Why?
But I don't see. I hate to say this because I know a lot of people liked Naomi, obviously. But there's no point in speculating or talking about it because they're not doing another season now. So I'm not gonna.
I have a good question for both of you guys. So you know how we were saying that? Well, they basically, when they put out the press release about the pickups, they used the quote unquote Supernatural Brothers picks to attract faces. Now, that being said, after they announced the Winchester spinoff, ABC also announced that Jensen Ackles will be a series regular on Big Sky.
Yeah.
So I was talking on Facebook and just honestly speaking, the CW really split their fan base as a whole in half with these cancellations.
Yes.
Now, one person on Facebook was trying to tell me, "Oh, they're still going to have a lot of views." When I'm not contesting that they may, but when it comes to the Winchesters, yes, he may be, narrating, but fans of Jensen Ackles are going to, in my opinion, they might just flock to Big Sky to see him.
Yeah, they probably will.
Just like The Boys is going to have a huge skyrocket in views.
Yep.
I'm like, you have to think logically here. They're going to want to see him versus just hearing him narrate about a story that's going to be 99% retconned from the flashbacks we've seen.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about this. First of all, the Supernatural pull isn't because of their voice. If Jared Padalecki was narrating Walker, it's getting 40% less views. I'm just putting that out there.
Yep.
I'm sure there will still be Supernatural fans that will go flock to the Supernatural spinoff because it's Jensen Ackles and his company, and they still support everything they do. If they came out with a Band-Aid, they would buy it. But there will be that percentage that will be like, he's just voicing it. I don't come in here for his voice, like that group on the CW, Misha, Jared and Jensen are guaranteed hits there.
Yeah.
On screen.
I also want to point out that I think one of the biggest issues with Gotham Knights, more so than just the fact they're going to be people that are going to attack it for being diverse before it even comes out, but you have basically ruined the loyalty between you and the fans of your network that love that kind of content, because they see that, like, the general audience, not us, not everyone sitting here, like the general viewers that watch these shows, who they're going to blame for this no matter what? The CW. no matter what, because it's gone off the CW. Just like if Netflix cancels a show, people are like, oh, screw Netflix, it cancels everything, even though it may have something else completely different for why it was canceled, because people don't read further than that. They just assume that that's the issue. They're going to watch Gotham Knights, and either they're going to be upset that it's not connected to the Arrowverse. They may not tune in at all because they're upset about Batwoman and Legends, because that's the demographic that you wanted to watch Gotham Knights, was the demographic that watches Batwoman and Legends. So you screwed all that up. All the trending, all the stuff that happens on social media, those people have walked away. What they have to bet on now with Gotham Knights is that they're able to get through this controversy and pick up a bunch of new viewers.
Yep.
That's what they have to hope for at this point.
They kind of killed that, because at the convention that Misha Collins was at, he basically confirmed that he was only going to be Harvey Dent. And I saw a lot of people upset about that, because they were hoping that, oh, he's going to be Two-Face. But he's just going to be, a dark version of Kaz. Mm-hmm. And for lack of better words, he said it's not really a costume. And I'm so tired of wondering about Stargirl. The show hasn't aired yet. Like, let it air first, and then they'll most likely say something.
I appreciate this. Yeah, I appreciate the super chat, JS Trucking Guitars. Stargirl's season probably is going to fill a slot in the fall. I assume it's going to be a fall show now. I'm just going to assume that. Yep. Because we have lost so many shows, it makes sense that if they're going to keep Stargirl, they're going to put it on in the fall. I also would not be surprised if they plan on ending The Flash in season 9 after everything that's happened. This would not shock me if they come out the upfronts and say the 9th and final season of The Flash. I would not be surprised.
And that'll most likely just be on Grant, because you literally got rid of all of the people that he wanted to, got rid of all his friends, like, for lack of a better word, like, you got rid of all his friends, and he's probably just looking at it at a stamp. Okay, we'll do season 9, and that'll be it, because it's really no point. They'll probably go above and beyond to make him happy after they literally just obliterated the whole universe that was on his shoulders.
There's no announcements about folks. Okay, save your money of super chats. Thank you so much, JS, for super chatting. But save your time in the comments. There's nothing about Stargirl right now. There's nothing. We will not hear anything about Stargirl until the upfronts or right before the upfronts. It's just nothing right now.
Nothing about Stargirl. It's nothing about a 10th anniversary final crossover.
Right. So this is another thing I want to address right here. The $5 super chat from Naruto here. If we get 10th anniversary and likely final crossover, would you prefer a 5-episode miniseries or event? We're not going to get any of that. Okay, just get your expectations in order here, right? We have 2 Arrowverse shows left, Flash and Superman and Lois. We have Gotham Knights coming in, which is not connected. Stargirl has not yet been connected. I don't care about the comics. That's not going to matter here, I don't think, because of what's happening with the company now. If we get a crossover for a 10th anniversary, which would be a slap in the face for the fans at this point, it's going to be Superman and the Flash, because that's the only 2 shows left on. Javicia is probably not going to come back as Batwoman after what they did. I doubt very seriously the Legends cast would come back, with the exception of maybe Katie Lotz, because she is directing. So maybe she might want to do it, but I doubt that. I don't think there's anything planned. You know what we're getting for the 10th anniversary? Another cancellation. That's probably what we're getting.
They're not here for us fans anymore. Like, honestly, I can guarantee you, soon as Grant heard the news and saw how they announced the cancellation of Batwoman and Legends, he hit up Eric like, "Yeah, man, this is gonna be it. I'm ready to go elsewhere." They don't care about the fans.
Yeah. If there's anything that we learned from this, everyone, and I'm not trying to bring anybody down, because we're gonna have fun talking about the Flash here in a second. I'm not trying to bring anybody down with this, but the companies do not care about any of us
at all.
We are numbers to them. They do not care. All of the hashtags is some assistant who's paid to run their Twitter account and get you to, like, engage with them. It's not like It's not like you have, Breck sitting down at Twitter, unless they announce her as a takeover. She's not sitting there doing it. The writers aren't sitting there doing it. The directors aren't. Those are interns that are paid to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that's just the way it is. They don't care about us. We can fantasize about that all we want, but this has shown me that they just don't. All right. After this, we're going to move on. Lord Vanderkill with the 49 super chat. Going forward, do you think live viewership will no, it'll become less important. The only thing that will matter for in any case at all is for the shows like Dancing with the Stars or American Idol or these shows where they have like live voting. All of the other shows
is Disney Plus now anyway, so
yeah, that's true. Anything with live voting may count, but in terms of like live viewership being like the biggest metric for them, I don't know if you were here when we were talking about that article, but it's all about streaming, ads, and people paying to watch these shows. Live viewership from people watching as a freebie does not help for the success of the shows. It helps for the success of the networks that are broadcasting the shows.
Yep.
So it does not matter for the shows themselves.
Yep.
All right.
And,
okay.
I want to depress more people. Just
oh
really
no, here
quick.
we go.
So everybody has been wondering about the mini breaks or why Tyler wasn't in that one episode. So turns out everybody should know he was announced to be back in the Teen Wolf film, reprising his role. Turns out he was indeed on set for the first day of filming back in March. Does not surprise me that they didn't give him a break because he worked so hard. They had to hide the fact that everybody knew he was producing because he started that in Vancouver. But
so he was double dipping between jobs.
Double dipping between jobs, and they had to hide that until they made the official press release. I mean, he handpicked the actor that's playing his son. Filming has wrapped, but he has been double dipping the entire time. Yeah. So when they're trying to say some of it may have been COVID, but I highly believe that half of it was because he did keep going back and forth. And now all of that's out in the open.
Yeah. So now we know. Paigey, there will be no twerking or chalking at this time. You have to wait and see. It may come at the very end, like when I cut off the camera. We'll see what happens. Anyway. All right, last thing I want to talk about before we talk about the Flash is kind of a funny story. I don't know if I'm taking this seriously or not, but I actually posted about this online. Apparently, there were bots voting for the Snyder Cut in the Oscars. Yeah. Did you guys see the story?
Yeah,
it came from Umberto over at the Wrap and was saying that the spike in votes, which were basically hashtags, showed that Snyder bots were contributing to like cheating for the awards. I'm not saying this is true or false. There are people like, oh, you're promoting this false story. I'm like, if it actually happened, like if the votes were confirmed to be spiking on those days, it's not a false story. It's more like speculation. So I don't know if it's true or not. Do you think that could be possible or no?
Yes, but that doesn't mean that others weren't also cheating.
True.
So I ran except this is the first year I didn't do it. I ran my own awards for 10 years, and I can tell you the amount of people that attempted to cheat, and my fucking award is nothing. So yes, someone definitely 102%.
I think they said, didn't they say Cinderella cheated as well? Like, wasn't there a case of Cinderella being cheated?
I'm sure it was several. I'm sure that the amount of bots. I had a friend way back in the day, great computer guy. He had created a little tracker thing to pick up people who were trying to skirt around my rules.
Mm-hmm.
So many fucking people tried to cheat on a fucking TV award show on my website that gets fucking 2,000 views a week. So
here's the deal. I've said this on Twitter before, and I think people have asked me about it. I don't care about awards. I don't care about people getting awards. I mean, it's great for them. If I get an award, that's great. Awards to me are things that are never consistent on why somebody gets it. Is it a fan poll? Is it a board of directors? Did you have a friend that decided to give you the award? Like, it's, to me, I don't care about awards. If I like something, I like it. And if I don't, I don't. I don't care if it's good or bad. I've liked a lot of awful stuff. right? There's a lot of movies and TV shows that are garbage that I like that will never win an award ever, other than a Razzie. And I don't care. I don't care. Awards to me don't matter. So if the Snyder people created bots and cheated, I don't care. I don't really care. I just thought it'd be interesting to see what everybody thought about it.
I came from a sports background, and for me, it always used to be, everyone would get in a tizzy over the MVP of the season, which is voted on by a group of people. And I'm just kind of like, it's an opinion-based award. That's you can look at it, and I would go as far as to say, well, whoever is in the top 5 in voting, any one of them could have been the MVP. It's just one of them won over the other one.
Mm-hmm.
The only awards I ever showed any credibility to were the ones that are based off a statistical fact.
Right.
Like if you say number 1 movie
Who
of the
had
year
the most
based
home
off
runs
of box
or something.
office. Yeah,
right.
Things like that,
All right. Paigey wants everybody to take a shot since Cantergrass mentioned his stream website. So there we go. All right. One more super chat here, and then we're going to get into this Flash episode, which is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. I can tell you that. Thomas Scott with a $5 super chat and a Team Eric member. Is it possible the CW up front could be another bloodbath with season 3 of Superman and Stargirl and Flash being announced? I don't think so. So the reason why a lot of these cancellations were announced before the upfronts is they don't want a lot of negative press. So they want the upfronts to be a very positive experience for everybody. So I don't think we'll hear of cancellations. They may announce the Flash as a final season, but that's pure speculation on my part. I don't know if they will or if they won't. But Superman and Lois doesn't seem to be in any trouble. Could they be? Absolutely. At this point, anybody could be. I don't think they are. And Stargirl hasn't even aired its season yet. So, Lance, any thoughts?
99.99 times out of 10, they rarely ever announce things as the final season at the upfronts.
Mm-hmm.
Even like with Arrow, when he announced his final season, he waited until the last day of filming for season 7. The past couple of years were weird. Black Lightning is like the only exception where it was super weird because he went to work. They said, let's talk about your contract. He basically said, hey, I'm gone. But they rarely don't do it at the upfronts. They do it before, when they announce a new season, or it's just a cancellation or something. But rarely do they do it at the upfronts because they like to keep those, joyful and this is what we got coming, yada yada yada. If they do announce it, it'll be after the upfronts, like before, maybe a few months before they start filming or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if we haven't heard it by now, we've only heard speculation from Deadline and their sources, which
Deadline is becoming less and less reliable.
Deadline called Gotham Knights.
I don't know what's happened to Deadline. Deadline's become a lot of
they're getting desperate for clicks.
They told us Naomi was renewed. All right.
They Deadline and what's the other one? Variety. Both of them in the last 2 years or so. I don't know what happened or when it happened, but somewhere in their chain of command, they're like, we're not getting the ad revenue we used to get.
Right,
we need more articles. I don't care how
they're doing what Andrea did in Supergirl, where they were like, we don't want real news, we just want clicks. So do whatever you got to do. Andres, I don't know why you can't get a super chat. Other people are able to do it, so I'm assuming it's something on your screen that's causing a problem, because it's turned on. It's working for other people, so I'm not really sure what the problem is. I apologize. I obviously would love for you to be able to donate, but I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, so we're going to be talking about hold on, let me see what's going on here. Why is this not working? Let me see. All right, maybe that works. All right. The upfronts are like what, just a few days away, right?
Thursday.
Yeah, they're right around the corner. Okay, so thank you for the super chat, Staggervore. It's next weekend might be another crazy after party if we get more wild news this week on the upfront. So All right. This week's episode of The Flash was episode 14, I think.
Yeah.
Funeral for a Friend. And this was the official goodbye episode for Frost. And it's
Or is it?
I mean, it could be. It could be. Look who showed up. Look who's here. I wonder how his voice sounds.
How did you get that high in L's?
I don't know. Just no telling. But this was the goodbye episode for Frost, and it was the beginning of the interludes. How many do we have? 4 interludes?
Yes.
Well, there's 3 that Eric Wallace in that interview referred to as interludes, and that was 15, 16, and 17. He never said anything about 14 being an interlude, and I kind of technically agree because this is wrapping up the last story.
I thought so too. Yeah, I saw people call it interlude, and I'm like, I don't know.
He called it an interlude on Twitter. He said it was
okay.
an interlude
All right.
on Twitter.
Okay.
He got on there and said that's last week was the end of our Death Revisited storyline, and this starts the interludes. This is also a first for the Flash because it's the first time we've had an open casket, which was very creepy, by the way. I had nightmares.
They wanted to just send home that emotional feeling for the episode.
They probably had an extra casket laying around in the props room, and they're like, "We've never used this thing."
He really told Danielle, "Hey, get in there and lay down," and she said, "Okay."
Well, do you think they made her up just for that one scene, or do you think that was put in later on? Like they had it filmed from previous days and they just used it? Because that's a lot to get made up just to do this.
It was probably done on a day where she was doing other scenes in that makeup.
Yeah. Paigey, are you there? Can you speak?
Yeah, I can speak. You can probably fucking hear it, eh? It's fucked.
Yeah, you sound a little rough.
How are you going to make content if you keep losing your voice?
No, that's the thing. I'm trying to get it back by speaking. Because that's the thing. That's usually how I get it back is not speaking for half an hour at a time, but on and off.
The reverse Flash trolling everyone, really. Asher with the $5 super chat. Why didn't the writers use Frost's death as a storyline for Caitlin leaving for an extended period of time? Because Danielle was pregnant during filming. Just because
Danielle didn't want to leave.
Yeah, and
Danielle wasn't ready to leave.
Yeah, I would feel like it would be her choice. Like if she felt like she needed to go, she probably could. But
that would be discrimination, wouldn't it? If they tried to say, "Go home because
you're pregnant. Leave." Yeah. No, I believe that she was capable of doing it because they know how to shoot, they know how to film with her being pregnant. So it wasn't.
They haven't been doing a good job though.
I will say this: the shot of her in the Frost suit, the full body shot, I was like,
you could really notice it there. I think I made a tweet the night that I saw her on set for the scene where she gets killed, and I think it was something along the lines of you can tell now that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
In person, I could tell.
But yeah, I'm assuming it's just because Danielle didn't need the time off yet. So they just decided to do that. The other thing we dealt with this episode was Blockbuster. I think we kind of dealt with him. That was very weird the way they handled this character. So
one of the greatest villains they've ever had on the show.
He really ruined a Nightwing villain like that.
Yeah. I mean, they brought him out in this weird looking homemade suit from Ivo, and Canograph, you got pictures of that, right? Didn't you have some pictures of that?
Yeah, I shot that scene, yeah. And at the time, no one knew who this guy was. And
it looked like a prototype for the Atom suit. I mean,
yes, it looked like that's exactly how I described it before. I'm like, it looks like a Finnish sniper put on the Atom suit.
Yeah.
Because he had a camouflage white thing on underneath and parts of the Atom suit.
Now, I thought it was interesting. They said the suit was powered by emotion, his emotions were also enhanced.
Because they needed Danielle Nicolette out in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the one thing. But the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was they defeated him off camera.
Or did they? Maybe they just told us they did, and they
Has
lost.
that ever happened on the Flash?
No, so many people mentioned it that night that I don't think it has.
Wally beat up a starfish off camera.
That's true. I just thought it was a little weird. And Paigey, I watched your review because I'm your biggest fan. And
You don't have to tell me that. I already knew.
You said that you thought that maybe they did film something and they just didn't have time to fit
It felt because if it was gonna be in there wasn't enough time anyway, and I don't know what they could have removed unless it was Chester and Allegra that entire thing. So my only thought was because the way they wanted to portray was, oh, Team Flash now has their mind on the job. This guy wasn't that threatening to begin with. They were only, it wasn't stopped at the beginning because
Right.
all over the place. And now that they're focused, they'll take him down in 2 seconds. What's the point of showing it?
I thought it was so funny when Barry was like, "You two, take care of him," and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm
what?
like, you're leveled up, right? You couldn't
What?
save them and then come back.
So I thought that was interesting. First of all, a couple issues with this scene that I want to bring up, and I might get some L's for this, but I don't care.
No, what's new?
So what were they doing out in public with no mask on, no defensive clothing?
Wait, hold on. Can we hold on? The chat needs to know this. Eric is actually taking a minor W at this moment. It's not an L. So record it, clip it, whichever way you want to do it, because
I thought, like,
this is a rarity.
I just thought for a second, I'm like, okay, it makes sense if they were just there, right? They're just at this building, nobody's in their costume, and something happens and they have to like do something, right? But they didn't. They specifically went there to take care of this meta. And I don't mean they had to have a full suit. It would have made sense, especially for Cecile, because her powers aren't like physical powers. But the fact that they didn't at least have like a black face mask, something on to cover their identity, because yeah, sure, maybe Allegra could get away with being an anonymous person, but Cecile is known by like all of the police department. Everyone there, the officers there would have known who she is.
Why was Joe okay with her going out there in the first place?
Or why didn't they use the face thing that Caitlin used, or Frost used the
Oh my
previous
God,
episode?
right?
There was a lot of things they could have done, but they did not. And I thought this was a weird thing to happen, because one of the arguments in the episode from Iris is she doesn't want to write a obituary because then people would know that she knows people on Team Flash. And I'm like, they already know. They've been known it for a long time.
It's like the writers are purposely mocking themselves.
My question is, again, what was Cecile going to do in the first place?
That's why they added the emotional aspect to the suit, so she would have something to do.
It's still dumb because another villain, the bank robber, the eco-friendly bank robber next week. You go out there, oh, you don't really want to do this,
right?
You don't really.
Well,
and
I
then
mean,
she screams.
Technically, she could do that, but that's not what they're having her do. They're making it so like
that would be unethical. That would be unethical. That's
yeah. So she's willing to go out in the field and use her powers against villains, but when they get in the courtroom, she's not willing to use her powers to help them defend themselves.
She has a weird moral compass.
The writers have a weird moral compass.
She will read you like a book and not care, but when it comes to court,
can you imagine? Okay, so this is completely different. You're sitting here at your desk. You're like, man, I'm having a bad day. I just don't want to talk to anyone. I'm just, oh God, I've got so much to do. Hey, oh God, you're feeling down. Let's have a conversation about it. You're so depressed. I don't understand. Like, just comes in and like literally blows up your spot with like reading your emotions. It's the weirdest thing. It is. It's very weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Ash Barrioni with a $5 super chat. The Iris time sickness story. So I'm reading this, but I agree with you 100%. Isn't a story is an excuse for Candace Patton to take an extended vacation and not work with anyone on set. I think there is a combination of truth to it. I think there is a time sickness storyline they're trying to tell, but I also think Candace wants some time off, and it just happens to be working in her favor in that way.
I personally think the time sickness storyline was invented so that Candace could have time off. I'm sure when she because remember, they negotiated contracts last year for this season. When it came up, because she vanished last year without warning them, it was negotiated like, we're going to give you time off. Just tell us what you want. She's like, I want X amount of days or weeks off at some point. And they're like, okay, we'll work on a storyline to make it work for you. Yeah. And this is what we've got.
Well, she needs to tell that to her fans, because over on Twitter they be dogging the mess out of the show that she's missing.
I'm so confused by them, because what have they been yelling at us for the last 7 years? Respect Candace. Respect what Candace wants. Give Candace what she wants. they're giving Candace what she wants, and now they're mad that Candace isn't on their screen.
Yeah, they say that it's no way Candace asked for this much time off. It's no way that Candace, knowing that COVID protocols were like that last year.
Let me just say this: Candace doesn't mince words. If she felt like she was being treated unfairly, she would say something about it.
Exactly.
She's on repeated occasions been like, "Man, I can't wait to get out of Vancouver."
Yes, yeah. Ashley with a $5 super chat, basically saying what we said earlier. I guess he was saying this as we were talking about it. Whereas Cecile Allegra going out in the field, Barry doesn't need help. They're doing it without masks. It's convoluted and stupid. They needed to include them to create this storyline of grief, but they just didn't do a very good job of it because they don't have suits yet.
I got a better question.
So
why does Allegra still suck at using her powers?
Wait, didn't she level up 2 seasons ago?
Okay. To be fair to Allegra, she was distracted by Chester making a mind gap dumb statement.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna. You said, you distracted me by calling Frost. So I'm gonna blast the wrong thing. No.
Well, she actually to go with what Lance said, she was like, "What? I'm like, what?
You purposely went in the wrong direction.
What? You totally turned and did it in the wrong direction."
I don't think when they were doing the scene, her intention was to move so wide for the camera. I think it was supposed to be a more subtle move, right. But probably however the prop was set up, it looks bad on camera.
Yeah. So let's talk about something I did like about this episode. I did like the
Allegra.
No. I like the stuff with Barry and Caitlin and the stuff with, just almost all the Barry stuff in general. I think it was all done really well. So,
Barry was building Olaf. Did you like that?
Well, I like that he was doing the bucket list. I thought that was a nice thing to do.
Be honest. When he walked in wearing the scuba gear, what were you thinking?
I was so confused.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on there. I don't necessarily agree with all the different stuff like the hot dog eating contest and all. I think that was a little silly, but I like the idea that he was finishing her bucket list. I think that was probably the most if anybody can do it, it would be Barry, right?
When have they ever had hot dog eating contest that one cop who is just, first of all, she's the new recurring cop.
She is.
Since the other guy decided to become evil. And help Cicada, so she's just the one.
You're gonna take me on next year, Barry Allen.
I said, when did you ever win? Is this a thing since Kramer took over?
I guess it is.
Because Joe and Singh would never. They would never do that because
what are the chances of so I got a better one for you. What are the chances of Frost wanting to win a hot dog eating contest and it actually being that same day that he's doing all of this stuff? Like, what are the chances of that? So, I know what that picture is, Paigey. That's the one with Ben, I believe. So it's funny. Staggerforth, the front eye super chat goes, I think Iris could have easily been written out for a few episodes. They could say she's on a business trip chasing an international story. You mean instead of the time sickness story? I mean, maybe, but the time. So, okay. I know there's a lot of Iris, people don't like her character or whatever. I've never been one of those people. I just thought that she's been used poorly. I actually like that Iris is getting her own stuff that doesn't necessarily connect with Star Labs because I think it's really good for her character. But they just don't know how to balance it. My issue is there's not a good balance. Either she's way too involved in stuff at Star Labs or she's way too disconnected from Star Labs. Every time they get to a point where I think there's going to be a good balance, it seems to just go out of whack. Like when they introduced CCC Media and that building and that place and then still had her interacting with Team Flash, I thought, okay, I like this. We're going to give her own little separate stories, and then she'll have her own narrative through most of the season. I didn't expect it to be what it is now because I feel like now it's gotten kind of out of hand. But I don't mind the time sickness storyline. I think it's a relatively interesting storyline. It's just being paced very poorly, in my opinion, which is weird because it's a time sickness storyline about time.
The issue is that the time sickness thing is something that's never going to have a great payoff.
Yeah.
It's just something that you're in the moment, but then at the end of it, it's like, oh, I'm cured. Like that's just going to be the end of it.
We all know it's going to be. I was touched by a thorn.
That's the only thing. Is if it leads into whatever they were teasing with the negative still force, if that's what's going to, then it's just a placeholder or an excuse for her not being on screen.
Yeah.
But then that's not that. Oh, dang it! That's not gonna make sense either.
No.
Because she had the time sickness before they magically reassembled Thawne in his Wells body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not gonna make sense.
Well, that's what Paigey was saying. The payoff is never gonna. It's not gonna be good, no matter what they do at this point.
Yeah, no, but that's I'm saying it's like you never judge something until it's over. But it's just one of those things where I don't know what the resolution is unless it's the negative still force.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not connected to that, then I don't know what the payoff is in regards to any sort of grand thing where it's worth being over 2 seasons worth.
Right.
And being included in Armageddon at the same time as well.
So Laura here says, think how easy for Taylor to figure out who's on Team Flash as Allegra and Cecile don't have Matt. I mean, but it's so I agree with you, Laura, but there's a lot of other things that would make it easy for them to figure out what's going on with Team Flash. I mean, Star Labs being like their base of operations, it's very easy to figure out who is connected and where the Flash goes. It's weird at this point. I would not be surprised if this storyline leads up to Barry revealing his identity to the world. I would not be surprised if that's where the storyline goes.
All of the main Arrowverse heroes would have their identities just out there. So
yeah, Allegra is more worthless.
She's not worth. She's worth something to Chester.
Well,
All right,
are
so
you sure? Because they don't prove it very well on screen.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
True.
That's one of my biggest problems with this episode is that one segment with Chester and Allegra was the worst part of the episode for me.
The thing is that
I don't know, man. They brought up a valid question about hummus.
Because the thing is that like I thought the episode was just fine. Like it was just there. Like I thought the Barry and Caitlin stuff was good. And I thought obviously the mask thing was an issue. But everything else I thought was just it felt like a good follow-up episode to the previous
you like
one.
the Chester and Allegra stuff?
But that's the thing. The Chester and Allegra stuff was absolute fucking dog shit.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. Why are they constantly paired together? Why? No, Eric, tell me why.
How did that get through the writer's room?
I need to know.
I don't know. So show of hands in the chat and anybody here in the stream with me. Does anybody think they have an ounce of chemistry? Because there's none for me. You think they do, Lance?
No, I'm kidding. It's actually
okay.
I was going to
bad.
say there's a reason Lance starts with an L because that was the
No, I think I honestly I looked at it and even my wife was like, are they really fighting over a hummus?
I think part of the reason that they don't
for multiple scenes it went on throughout.
Yeah, because they argued about it in the bar too. But I think part of the problem that that chemistry seemed to be such a problem is they've dragged it on too long. Mm-hmm. They keep bringing it up week after week after week, and it's just clunky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just have them be a thing, and no one has to think about it.
Yeah.
Eric, if I started calling you Chuck when it doesn't work at all, and I kept calling you it, would I get slapped eventually? Because I think the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
Why are we 2 seasons into Chuck?
It doesn't make sense.
When it's Chunk. It's
it
not
is
even
Chunk. It is. Well, they can't call him Chunk because they cast a very skinny guy in the role.
Just make it that he likes,
supposed to be a very large person.
He likes chunky peanut butter or something.
I don't know,
like, why is it Chuck?
Can we also talk about the fact that those two get the alert about Chillblaine getting stupid drunk and freezing half of O'Shaughnessy's, but the cops never show up?
Well, not only that, but who sent the alert? There was no one in that
bar. No, you've forgotten about the timeline of the episode, Lance. There was a hot dog eating competition going on.
Yeah, you're right.
So
they were too busy.
Yeah,
to solve crime.
Hot dog eating competition.
No, but the worst part was the bartender when they got there. He's like, if he keeps doing this, I'm going to call the cops. I'm like, you should have called them already. Do you see what he did to the bar? And you had people murdered there like 3 episodes ago.
I also find it weird that the bartender was as calm as he was, considering he probably had 3rd-degree frostbite going on at the time. Like, his hands frozen to the fucking bar.
And what bar has a DJ playing full blast in the middle of the afternoon like that? That makes no sense either.
I know.
Not my
vampire bar.
Maybe. I just like everything about and the tone of that scene was so weird during an episode where we're supposed to be mourning Frost. I thought that was a little strange.
Yeah. By the way, there
And
is confusion. We're not talking about Ezra Miller in regards to this bar, Thomas. We're talking about Chillblade. They sound similar. I get the confusion.
Wow.
And it's weird because the last episode and a good chunk of this episode, Chillblade's character hasn't been too bad.
Yes,
And then they had this one scene, and that's all anyone's going to talk about.
Yeah.
And can we talk about the bartender doing this while Chester and Allegra were talking to him? He doesn't stop. I'm gonna have to call I'm like, why are you still twitching? He's not.
The other thing is they did have customers walk in towards the end, but the whole time I'm like, okay, so they got alerts on social media about Chillblade, which was weird. But the other thing was that they had no customers, but they had a DJ there playing music to an empty bar with no one in it in the middle of the afternoon. It just made no
maybe the one customer they had was in the bathroom.
They didn't even have it. They didn't have waiters. Where were their waiters at? They had tables and tables and tables, and they're like, do they serve food here? What do they have? There's no wait staff.
Wasn't those two customers the two people that were just talking to Iris about Frost? I swear those were the same.
No, I think they just looked similar. I don't think it was the same.
Oh, okay, I was about to
they
say
did look.
they
I thought
got fast.
Don't say COVID because they shot tons of scenes in this episode with people all around each other. They had a whole room of people during Frost.
Yeah, the restrictions aren't in place anymore. They don't.
So they just didn't have anyone there.
You mean to tell me Chillblade literally said, "Let me slide on these gloves while I'm drunk. Let me blast half of the bar. Let me take them off and go DJ. Then I'm gonna go pour Chester and Allegra some drinks, and we're gonna."
Which, by the way, shouldn't he be like permabanned from that place at this point? I mean, all the stuff that's happened with him there.
I mean, you would think so, but I mean, how many times did Ezra have to get arrested before they threw him off the island?
Wait, is Chet the nickname for Chester?
Yeah.
So does that mean is that Tom Hanks's son's name is Chester Hanks?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I didn't know that.
Ash here with a $10 super chat. It was the point of Iris disappearing at the end of the episode, reappear in 12, and disappear again episode 48, ever going to be put in public and people in danger with times. Okay, so this is a good segue into my biggest gripe about this episode, and I'm probably going to catch L's for this because
bigger than hummus.
What's new?
Bigger than hummus, right? So we established throughout this entire graphic novel that Iris is consistently getting more and more dangerous because of the time sickness, and she's making people disappear, making objects disappear, and she has no control over it to the point where she doesn't even go to Star Labs, and she doesn't want Barry to touch her, and he's finally like, I don't care, I'm not afraid. But she is still a danger to everyone. She even made Dion go somewhere in an episode. So why was she out walking around putting everyone at risk like nothing was wrong?
Stood in the middle of an intersection, just
First,
it was actually on the sidewalk, not in the middle of the intersection.
Well, yeah, the sidewalk, just standing there, just like
first scene of the episode.
Frost.
I ranted on Twitter about this at the time, and it's funny because I saw Eric had liked my tweet, and right away I'm like, "Oh, Eric's going to talk about this in his video," because it was the dumbest thing, dumber than hummus. You're right, I forgot about this.
There are two conflicting things happening here. They wanted Iris to be a part of Frost passing because it would make no sense for Iris not to be at the services. But they also have to deal with the fact that Iris is, for lack of better terms, contagious with time sickness.
Yeah.
Temporal sickness. We got to refer to it by the legit name that they keep saying.
It would have made more sense to me if they would have said something like put on this device or wear this amulet that will like help you for this one or something. But Dion has been missing for 3 episodes. So this means she is just walking around making things disappear, and
she could have had her.
How is her office still there?
Keep in mind that she has made this happen without even being aware of it. Remember the adoption agency, which means that people could be disappearing all around her and she wouldn't even know it. But yet she's out and about interacting with people.
And they could have solved They could have solved the service problem so easily. Have her there by Zoom.
Anything other than this.
Barry holding her, and if she wanted to say a few words, Barry just be like this to the crowd, and
it made, to me, I can deal with the stupid comedy. I've dealt with it before. We had all of season 4, all of season 5 with stupid comedy. I can deal with that. I might rant about it, but it's a tonal thing and that's fine. This, from a story standpoint, was the dumbest thing that happened in the episode. Because we see that she's still being affected by it, because at the end of the episode she disappears, which means that she was still contagious with temporal sickness, as
she put people at her work, at the coffee shop, out on the street, all at risk. And she's supposed to be like, you know, a smart, bright reporter, and she can't figure out that she's endangering people.
It was the weirdest thing because it wasn't even mentioned. She didn't talk about it. She didn't tell people. Oh wait, what is this? She didn't tell anyone about it. Nothing. She didn't give anybody the opportunity to go, look, so he was telling me. So I want to know, how is it that I get an L for that, Paigey? Explain this to me. I'm curious to how it is I get an L for this. Explain it to me. I want to know why it was okay for her to do what she did, because that's essentially why I would get an L. So go ahead.
It wasn't. It was just, it's really funny to see you react live. 99% of the time, it's usually too early. And
not this time. Not this time.
No, but let me. I know I can get a response from you. And I knew every single time I replied, you were probably getting triggered. So when I put that final gif in there with the rock.
So here's the thing. Iris was not a good example for the pandemic. The point is that that's essentially what we're dealing with, is someone who goes around and gives people this sickness and makes them disappear. Like, on the show, we've talked about consent. We've talked about contagions. We've talked about this stuff so many times. I was like, did we just forget? Did we just forget that was happening? Why was she doing it? Why
was she out and about?
Why? Yes, it makes sense if she wanted to go to Star Labs, but she was out in public.
So Eric, you know how technically they're the parents of the forces.
Yeah,
we're getting like a bit of a reverse situation here, whether it's reverse flush, whichever way you want to put it. But Iris is seeing Dion as the father in this situation, and she's disobeying his rules. So can we put ourselves into 15-year-old Eric's shoes?
No, we cannot.
Would you ever disobey your parents and be like, you know what?
No.
F you, ma'am.
You are trying very hard to give her a way out, and I'm not.
No, I'm not, because I thought it was just like, the only thing is actually they probably had one of the better shots with her. Like they filmed it very differently.
It looked beautiful. That intro scene was one of the most beautiful shots that they've done of the Flash in the last 7 seasons.
It looked like Superman and Lois. It looked weird. It looked like a Superman and Lois shot.
But you don't.
Like
the lightsaber battle was cool, but it didn't make any sense. So I mean, like,
you love the lightsaber battle. I know you watched that on. I think it's your like screensaver, isn't it?
It is not. But oddly enough, talking about stuff that kind of doesn't make sense or whatever, one of the writers was asked on Twitter what their favorite episode to write the Flash was, and they put Enter Flash Time, because that
filler episode.
Yeah. Lance, what do you got to say?
I was gonna say, let's just be honest. We all know what's coming with Dion in the next episode. Let me get into the form.
All right, go ahead.
First of all, Barry's he's gonna go the whole night without realizing that Iris didn't come home, because they are determined to write him as for lack of better words, a bad husband.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be like, man, Iris didn't show up. Let me call her office. So when he realizes that she's disappeared because of the temporal sickness, as he calls it, Dion's gonna be like, man, I told moms to stay put. Man, I got bro and my 2 sisters looking for her everywhere.
Well, first of all, where did Dion go?
They're not gonna reference that either.
He's with the hairbrush and what's her face's mom.
I think that's gonna be referenced, because I'm pretty sure they're going. Because I don't know why Nora's in this week's episode.
That doesn't make sense either yet. Right now,
I think that's the reason that Nora shows up, and it might have something to do with Dion. But I'm pretty sure in the previous episode that Iris was working late.
Yes, she was.
So that's why Barry she probably stays at the office. So he probably wakes up in the morning, hasn't got a message or something. And you can see in the trailer that he takes her, like, I don't know if it's breakfast or something. It's something in a paper bag, a sandwich, a banana. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so I'm assuming that's what happens. And he's like, oh, what the hell?
I also want to say
Let's
shout
go.
out to the people at CCC Media who get those high quality good shots of Godspeed and Zoom to put on their paper, because I swear they look like promo shots from the episodes. But
What about the?
How did they
what
get
about
the shot of God?
I heard they took those shots.
Dude.
I heard they took those shots with Canada Graph's camera.
oh, the
Well,
potato.
obviously not, because we can actually see them properly,
I knew you were going to
and there's not a disgusting watermark over them. So obviously,
Oh
not.
no! I
No,
need
because
someone.
they paid me for them, so I let them use
Okay,
it without the
I need
watermark.
someone on Twitter to take that shot of the paper from the trailer and put Canada Graph's watermark over top of it, and make sure you circulate.
But
that
also
on Twitter.
take it and like depixelize it to like 122p or whatever it is. Make it so Godspeed just looks like
I literally
don't know,
took that photo from like 3/4 of a football field away and didn't know I was photographing it. So,
I love when you have to remind people on Twitter that if they want better photos, they have to buy you a new camera. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
part, is,
I think Paigey needs to go on YouTube and release a formal video saying that he was never saying that Zoom and Godspeed were literally on set filming.
No,
Because
that was the DC TV show.
you literally you have an entire Facebook page called DCTV Prime.
oh,
The guy he posts so much clickbait, and like I get into it all the time. He said that you said that Zoom and Godspeed were back, they were filming, and I was like, well, I can tell you right there, that's a lie. I've been doing these videos with Paigey for the past few months, and he has never said that.
That's the thing.
Speculation.
People will say that,
Speculation.
and then you'll say, okay, can you link me the video where it said this?
right?
And it's an invisible link that never existed. West Islanders love it. It's like this. Imagine, honestly, it must be the mirror dimension where everything I just include is like, oh, maybe, or like there's something there. Apparently, in the mirror dimension, I just say it's legitimately happening.
He sent me a video as to where you literally said they are only showing up on a newspaper so far. And
yeah,
I was
like
you're not listening. You're going based off of the screen cap. Like,
yeah. This reminds me of a DJ Eric situation, which I won't name out loud for specific reasons.
Okay. We have a super chat here for JS Truck Guitars. It goes, who else thinks that the time stone and Damien Dark gave to Joe is actually going to be either the cause or the cure for the time sickness? Do you think we're going to come back to that? Because it really hasn't been
I think we
mentioned
will
at all. And
Yeah,
Joe,
I mean,
yeah.
he's going to take the time sickness.
Oh, okay.
He's going to take the time sickness from Iris and use the time stone, and he's just going to be blipping in and out of time. That's how we get his 5 episodes next season. Watch somebody go make an article out of that. Watch.
I can think of a content creator that might make an article about that, so or video
that
about
wants
that.
to, or someone else.
Someone else. I don't know.
Comic book, whatever comic book cast. Yeah,
Benjamin Rolfe.
Oh, there we go. Jon Snow rules with the $2 super chat. Condiment King shout out had excited thoughts.
Eric was twerking.
I was
not
twerking.
twerking.
Yeah. So I actually have ketchup right here, not cats up, but ketchup right here on my desk. So,
do
you mean tomato sauce?
On your desk?
Oh, look. So look, we all do. You don't have it? You don't have ketchup on your desk? Oh,
I usually don't put tomato sauce in.
I have this on my desk.
Room outside of the kitchen.
That's all I have is this on my desk.
Oh, okay, all right.
Honestly, I thought that was a pornographic.
No, a lot of times when I order food online, I'm working here and I just eat while I'm sitting here. So
wait, Co, are you confirming that you do indeed drop blops of sauce and cheese all over your desk?
No, my desk is actually clean. My keyboard is actually under my desk, which is right here.
Yeah, it has to be under, otherwise there'd be crumbs in it.
Well, that's why.
Mine gets crumbs in it all the time.
Does it? Okay.
I shake it out at least once every 2 or 3 days.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay.
I eat at my desk because my room is a fucking bed and this chair. Like I don't have a lot of other places to eat.
Right. So anyway, outside of that, we get the disappearance at the end, and then we get the big surprise after we've gone through this whole episode. So 2 things. First of all, I thought, okay, I was right. because when Caitlyn was back at her apartment, Chillblade was there. I was like, oh, is this going to be her confessing her love to Chillblade? Is that what we're going to have?
That was an L. That was an Eric L.
But she did not, so I didn't even bring it up. But it ends up that we may be getting Frost back right after we've spent 2 episodes, like basically saying goodbye to her.
I don't think that's what it is. I think it's not too much of a surprise. This episode's airing, and literally in the week before leading up to it, Daniel Panabaker did interviews saying that at the end of this season, you know exactly where Caitlyn's story goes into season 9.
Okay.
So I wonder if this is like one of those things that's like they just come back to it every now and then, because it's not one of those things where I think there has to be a lot of consistency to it. They can come back to it 2 episodes in a row, then take 2 episodes off, whichever way they want to do it. But it's just a slow process with them trying to figure out how to bring back Frost. Well, I don't think it's going to bring back Frost as we know her, but I wonder if Caitlyn thinks that the only way to bring her back is to do it how they used to be, where they were in the same body.
Yeah.
But in turn turns her evil. But my only issue with that is that I think that's a terrible way to, if season 9 is the final season of The Flash, to take Caitlyn as a character. But then again, it give people what they want, where you get this consistent, I guess, Killer Frost thing. But I don't know exactly where they're going to go with it, because it's definitely not going to be Frost back as we know it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done the entire episode dedicated to it.
See this comment?
That's Justin. Wrong stream. For the incest stuff, it's I think Nerdrotic. I think that's the channel for incest stuff. I think that's
and
it's one of those ones.
I don't see them like making Caitlyn into Killer Frost, because one of the things I think the reason they killed off Frost is to give Danielle Panabaker the break from the 2+ hours of makeup it takes to do that character.
And also the way they film it, like she has to film each scene twice.
Yeah, she films double everyone else, basically. So the other thing I want to talk about was the idea that Frost was still a villain, which I thought was a little weird. They spent a lot of the episode trying to sort of convince people that Frost was not a villain. And I'm like, she's kind of been working with Team Flash for at least 2 or 3 years now. I mean, do people still think she was a villain at this point? Or... like, I thought that was a little strange. Does that feel strange for anybody else? Or
I'd say that again.
So I thought that Frost had sort of been known as, now she works with Team Flash. She's a hero. But there were still people that thought she was a villain, which I thought was weird, because she hadn't been a villain for like 3 seasons. So
I think it's just, once a name sticks, it takes a long time for people to stop using that name. Like, perfect example. Our hockey stadium changed its name like 12 years ago. I still call it by its old name. Like, it's just ingrained in your head after a while, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, even if you thought that you would still not think of her as a villain. Like, they might still say Killer Frost, but she's not killing people. She's on Team Flash. She saved the city multiple times.
But no one actually called her a villain. They just had a drink named after her villain persona.
No, but there was a lot. They did that whole segment where Iris had people that were on a podcast trying to
change the perspective
of her name. Okay. And I thought that was a little weird that they went to that much trouble, because I don't think she'd done anything villainous in like 3 or 4 seasons. So,
but I don't think that was so much to like try and explain to society that she's not a villain anymore. I think that was just them honoring the fact that she had changed her ways.
But I think it did, because they changed the Killer Frost name to Frost after the podcast.
The changing of the name of the drink was meant to hammer down on the fact that people still saw her as Killer Frost, and this, in regards to a lot of people, still this villain. At least they marketed it as a villain. So it was like that changing point.
Yeah.
Through all these different perspectives.
Yeah, she was found guilty, but she was let out, and
Well, did you see that interview where I think it might have been Danielle Panabaker said that originally they were only meant to be separated for like 5 to 6 episodes, and that would have been that court thing, and that's exactly, we've been saying that ever since they dealt with that court thing, they should have been put back together, and they were meant to.
Or kept Frost in jail, because when she got out so quickly, I was like, that's weird.
I don't think they would have, because I think they still wanted Frost out in the field.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, that's the issue now they're going to have with Barry, is that if he has quote unquote backup on the field, it's going to be freaking Allegra and Chester.
Yeah.
Not Chester, sorry. What's her name? Cecile.
Yeah. Think about it. Two of the most untrained superheroes were out in the field with,
and not even
Terry.
untrained. Their powers are not combative at all.
No.
Here's Allegra. Here's my UV lights. Enjoy melanoma. Like what? Like that's not going to affect me right now, or anything like that. And Cecile, you can see that I'm not scared of you. Like, what's the powers there?
Galactic, you're arguing a weird thing because you're saying that, so the court case, she was guilty, and her getting out and being a superhero after getting out, somehow people didn't know about that. That's ridiculous. They obviously knew about it. Like, they knew that she was out. They knew she was with Team Flash. Don't get hung up on the court case. People get found guilty of stuff all the time and then get out. And
not guilty.
Yeah.
OJ.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about public perception, not actual legal terms of what was going on with her. I mean, I get what you're saying, but that's not what I'm arguing here.
Wait. I won't mention it.
What?
No. I was wondering, it's like, hold on. I'm pretty sure he was found guilty, the person I was going to mention.
Oh, okay.
But it might get the stream demonetized.
Don't do that. Lord Vanderkill with the 49 super chat. Do you ever think we'll see No.
Of course not.
Nope. Done. He's done. Even if Batwoman were to come back, I don't think it would ever be any reason to bring him back. And I think the likelihood of Batwoman coming back is very slim. So if they were going to use him, he probably would have returned during this past season.
What?
Here's another thing I thought was weird. Not necessarily like ruin the episode for me, but was it weird that Cisco wasn't mentioned at all? I think they didn't mention him to not draw attention to the fact that he was not there, but it was weird that he wasn't there. But I understand why.
I don't think it would have been worth getting Cisco in the episode, though. Like, I was wondering, it's like, would Cisco show up anyway? But I don't think it would have been worth him being there.
Well, another thing is they could have easily had Joe or someone say Cisco called in, he sends his condolences, but he can't be here. So, I mean,
or he's in another country or something like that.
Yeah, something like that would have been good for people that were paying attention to that, but I think the majority of viewers probably didn't think.
Where was Ralph?
So
people were asking where was Wally, and I'm like, did he even know?
Where's Wally been in general? Where's Wally been in general? So
one that people brought up in my chat, which was one I would have never thought of, but like the guy with the weird eye, Norvok, Frost literally, like in that whole court case, that was like one of the reasons, like for her whole thing. You'd think he would have had a strong enough connection to go to her funeral. Where was
Goldface? Where was Aminette Black? She knew that.
Goldface was busy filming his new pilot.
He's in jail, ain't he? That's why he wasn't there. He got arrested.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. I didn't like this episode, but it's not one that I wouldn't like. Like, this is not one of the ones where I'd be like, I'm never going to watch it again. If I watched the season back, I'd probably watch this one again, even though it was very slow.
Eric, can you tell us when season 8 ends, are we going to get an Eric's Reloaded breakdown video of the time sickness storyline?
Yes, we will. Full thing. Break it down.
I can already see the title. I'm angry. Did this make sense?
Right.
Iris's time sickness.
Or I would say, what time sickness? Part 2. That's what it'll be.
Can it be a musical or can it be a skit where you do have a wig on and you're interacting it, and when you do the time sickness, you have to find confetti and throw green confetti to make the time.
Yeah, that actually would work pretty much. I think it works in the context of this storyline. So look, I didn't enjoy this episode, but it isn't the worst episode of The Flash I've ever seen. There's been some bad ones. So I thought it was just a mid episode for me. It wasn't awful. It wasn't great. Like, I think I gave it like a D, I think, which is like lower end of the middle for me. I'm curious in the chat though, what would you give this episode 1 out of 10? And any final thoughts on the episode? Did you guys not like it? Just generally, I know Paigey said he thought it was just an average episode. Is that what you said? Like,
it was just average with just that Chester and Allegra thing was so bad. But I just thought it was an average episode. I think it was a decent follow-up to last week's one. But I don't know. It just as I said, average.
Yeah,
Is there?
it definitely felt like a middle episode, like a bridge episode between two different things for sure.
It just felt like an epilogue almost
Yeah.
to the previous
For-
storyline.
For me,
Yeah.
I literally look at this episode as two different pieces of episode. Like the emotional stuff to Frost departing and all that, I thought was pretty good. I wouldn't give it a 10. It's probably like a 7.5 or an 8. But then you have all of the dumb stuff from the Chegra stuff, from Chillblade in the bar, to almost everything Iris did. Drags this episode down so far that, I mean, during the live broadcast, I think I gave it a 7, but after I've had time to sit and think about it, it's like a 4.5 or 5.
Wow. All right.
Because think of how much dumb stuff was in the episode.
No, I'm not disputing that at all. I would probably sit around a 5 myself. But yeah, there's a lot of unforgivable stuff in the episode. What about you, Lance?
5 out of 10. I agree with the way they made Blockbuster so lackluster and stupid.
I forgot about that.
Literally looked like a mocap suit that
And
they
killed
forgot
off,
to
and
put
then
the
not killed,
CGI
but stopped
on.
off camera too.
Stopped off camera. The berry stuff was cool, and but the hot dog eating contest kind of took it a little bit too far. In all actuality,
Wait,
that's
is that
cheating.
because it was some glizzy gobbling, or was that because
That's because 1, we've never heard of them doing that before. 2, he's cheating because of the enhanced metabolism.
I must say though,
It's just dumb in general.
do you
I
think
forgot about that. That's true. The enhanced metabolism.
You're
I
eating
forgot
hot
about that.
dogs, and it's a villain
Yeah.
running around.
Yeah, Barry had them hot dog hacks, but I must say, do you think they didn't? Do you think that they didn't focus too much on the hot dog eating competition because it would have been a bit sus?
I believe so. I believe so. I honestly I think so. They don't want, and then it wouldn't make it any better because you got the Irish stands. They'd be like, maybe that's why he's not around his wife because he's too busy glizzy gobbling.
Glizzy gobbling.
Glizzy Goblin.
Oh no, that's going to be Paigey's next.
But
screen
no,
name next
no,
week,
but
I'm
no,
sure.
5 out of 10. And then to make it worse, the whole ending scene with Frost being in the casket, Danielle was literally
That open
kissing
casket got you so
laying there.
together, like
Yeah,
on social media. Like
it was so weird because first of all, Eric Wallace, when on God's green earth has any show on the CW ever had 1, an indoor funeral, 2, a real funeral in general, 3, you mean to tell me that you literally had and 9 times out of 10, Caitlin did the autopsy. She did it. She did all of it. You know how that goes. She did all of that because Eric Wallace is too lazy to write in a real corner or anything.
All right.
So she did all of that. So you mean to tell me she did all of that, but then didn't want to do a funeral?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Wouldn't it have been really cool if they would have done, because you know how Barry was doing the ice sculpture with the chainsaw and everything?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been cool if they would have had an ice sculpture of Frost instead of the body and the casket? That would have been pretty cool to do like an ice sculpture of her, like maybe from the waist up or something.
Oh, we got the trophy room back too, but that also leads us to believe that they were never going to put anything of Frost in there to begin with.
Right.
I'm like, that's stupid. And the fact that you put Vibes glasses in there and he's not dead.
Well, no, let's rephrase that. Vibe is dead. Mecha Vibe is not dead though.
It's the same goggles.
No.
Oh,
Those are the Vibe goggles. We need the Mecha Vibe goggles. They're still in existence.
Either way, when I'm guessing that in the future that dead people trophy room. Oh, also the quantum slicer.
Was it a dead one? Didn't it have like? Because that Vibe, and they didn't have
They had Nora's jacket in there or something, didn't they?
I think so.
I can't remember what the other thing was. I was on the.
Shouldn't that?
Although I
jacket
guess
have
she's
disappeared?
technically.
That jacket. I'm getting upset. Let me not nitpick.
Sounds like Eric.
That jacket should have disappeared. Okay, but we're gonna leave that alone.
It should have. I've said that before. There's a lot of stuff that should have disappeared. And,
We're gonna leave that alone. It's the funeral, the whole funeral open casket, and then the flashback of Caitlin literally leaning in to clip hair. But when she was at the casket, she stood like this for
Yeah,
like
she
5
never
minutes.
she never bent over the casket at all in real time.
I said when
You were like, when did that
I was
happen?
so confused at the time when she talked about the little vial of hair. I'm just like, was there a scene that just didn't show us? Because I didn't see that.
and then
Well, I think with that you can just assume it happened off screen.
Yeah, but it's the angle she was standing at in the scene. Because I saw it later. I saw it later on reaction channels when I was rewatching it, and I'm just looking at it, I'm like, there's no point in that scene where she's close enough to reach in, snip a piece of hair, and like.
Where did she pull the scissors from? She didn't have a purse. She didn't have pockets.
Yeah. No, she just like pulled them out from like inside her like mouth. Okay.
No, from what she said.
Yeah. That's.
Oh, let's not forget. Natalie Dreyfus got paid most likely a buttload of money to show up and rub Frost back.
Well, that's the thing is I didn't even realize. Like at the end of it, I was like, was she even in the episode? Because I didn't remember her being there. Because
I saw her name in the credits at the start of the episode.
And show up, and I said, "Really, y'all are this desperate to force Sue in these episodes? You're that desperate, and still didn't mention why didn't Ralph come?"
Oh. That's why they actually did something very smart with the Flash episode.
Okay, what was it?
Caitlin organized the casket and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the scissors were stowed. Because when she cuts the hair, she puts.
I thought her mother did. Didn't her mother?
Yeah, and she puts the scissors back into the casket. They're like tucked into the casket. I just opened up and rewatched the scene because I was wondering. I was like, I'm pretty sure like she does something with the scissors, and she does. She tucks them back into the casket.
My question is, why did she do it there in public when she had access to Frost?
After Barry, the Barry scene.
You mean that was
the conversation with Barry?
So wait,
sort of
all of that stuff she snuck into her apartment happened overnight?
It was.
I felt like she was doing that for like a week or something. It felt like she'd been working on this for a while.
Maybe she took some like Velocity X, got like a speed boost for a few minutes, and like raced it all over.
She had the conversation with Barry right into the funeral for Frost, but somehow she still had the apartment set up for all of this work before she clipped the hair.
She was at Joe's apartment when she gave the phone call.
Yeah, she's dressed differently. So unfortunately, they just did the thing where they go, "Oh, Chilblain, show up," but in between him showing up, she's been off doing stuff because she's not wearing when she shows up, she's not wearing the same clothes.
Basically, that could be a week from the funeral. We don't know when that was.
We don't know when that happens, but the thing is that she phones him at the what you call the after party for a funeral. I don't know what you call it, but that's where she phones him.
The repass.
But obviously, she's been doing whether it's for 2 hours or for 2 days or for 2 weeks.
So when Barry comes to her apartment to give her the pep talk to go to the funeral,
when did she have time?
I was under the impression that was like the day before or even the day of. Because he's in a suit, isn't he?
Yeah, that's
he's in a suit.
Yeah.
And then her apartment's empty.
Right.
Of technology.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the issue with the end thing is that she's wearing something different. So they're trying to say, oh, yeah, it's not straight after in regards to Caitlin.
But she walks back with the hair like she just got it. Like she had it on her. Like, what I have in my pocket. Like,
it wasn't sitting on her desk in the house.
Yeah. So that was the only issue with that thing is that they haven't, I guess, sent it down on the timing of it all.
Can I redo my grade to 4?
Also, the other problem is, why was it so dark in there? Like, you can't do this experiment with lights on.
Dramatic effect.
Open the curtains. Like, Jesus, it's dark in there. Yeah, and then Chilblain, you expect me to believe that even though it's a little light, you walk and still bump into something. It's a little light in there. You're not that blind. And there was what is this? You saw it right there because you looked down first. It was just weird for me. Whole funeral, it was weird.
This is just gonna get worse if we keep doing it. So let's just wrap it up.
I need a positive review of this episode from Eric.
Yeah. Your trademark interlude episode. All right. This
Yeah.
this is up there with the for me. This is up there with the Cecile episode with Psycho Pirate. That
Oh
random,
no, that was awful. That was an awful episode.
it had good moments, but it wasn't like it could have been better, and it would have been way better if they would just.
And I will say that meme of Barry doing the peace sign at the funeral is showing up for everything now. Everybody's using it for everything.
No, have you seen the meme from like it's a video from Charmed where one of the sisters is like using her powers to throw people, and they put like all the CW show names on
no
body. and on the Charmed sister it says Mark Pedowitz, WB Discovery, the CW, and they said,
no.
They said CW just said go.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, all right. So we're gonna wrap it up there. I think we've covered all of the topics. We still have a couple of weeks with no Superman and Lois because obviously Tyler was filming Teen Wolf, so they had to make do for that. But that's gonna be back soon. So the next episode of The Flash is the Into the Still Force episode, I believe. And it's the one where Dion and Barry are going to be searching for Iris, and we get to see a paper with Zoom and Godspeed. Now, before we wrap this up, do we think we're actually going to see them in the episode, or is it just going to be in the paper? I think it's just in the paper.
I think
it's meant to be an example. It's meant to be an example, I think, of the fluctuating timeline because it's from 2024.
Yeah,
the newspaper thing. So I think it's meant to be like either multiple examples of it, or it's just like, well, that didn't happen on that day.
I think the best thing you might get, and I don't even think that's the case, is they might show reused footage from like one small clip of each of them on like with a fuzzy filter over it to be like, this is a memory that like blah blah blah.
Actually, that's probably why Nora shows up.
True.
It'll be similar to their episode 6 thing, but it might just be her.
Yeah.
And she quickly goes back to go like, what the hell's going on?
Can we talk about the fact that I would actually want to see that, because seeing how big and imposing Zoom is and seeing how scrawny and skinny Godspeed is, just seeing them side by side, and Zoom's like, yeah, you go do this for me. And
the only thing I dread from this episode is now we're going to have another newspaper article that people are going to be bringing up for like years.
They're going to be saying, oh yeah,
for 2 years. You got 2 years.
Oh, we're finally going to see it. And we're not. Although I would love to see.
I already had people being like,
we don't ask these questions, Laura. We don't ask these questions because they make too much sense.
I've already had people asking me about that newspaper, being like, well, they have to get to 10 seasons now because of the newspaper. And I'm like, oh,
yeah. We also had storylines that needed to be finished on Legends and Batwoman, and that didn't happen either.
Oh, you know what? I want to get the conspiracy mill rumbling right now. So. The night that I saw Nora's trailer at the set, that was the same day that they shot the Dion scene with the newspaper and all that. They were filming in the alley where Godspeed had his fight with Barry and what's his buddy that had the Pied Piper.
The fake Godspeed, yeah.
There you go. Maybe Godspeed was back.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Please don't. Why
anyway,
were phones all different? Never mind. I'm leaving it alone.
Yeah. So we're going to get out of here. Thank everybody for hanging out. Did you say something, Paigey?
Sorry?
I thought you said something. We're going to get out of here.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead. What?
Hold on.
Hey, the L counter hasn't moved.
He has nothing. It's always hold on. He's trying to drag out the time. Paigey's voice will be back next week, so he'll be back in full force. And maybe I'll have some more L's. I got a couple. I don't know what they were for. But
you say that like it's a question whether it's actually going to go up when you know it's going to go up.
So anyway, we'll talk to everybody. We'll see.
Actually, bonus thing, you never know. Eric might have to record a video for my channel because my voice is absolutely FUCK'd.
Do you want me to do a Ben video for your channel? Or
what do you mean by that? Define what you mean by that.
Like Supergirl movie coming in 2022 or something like that.
Hold on, can we do Batwoman not cancelled, renewed for up to season 7, and Canada Grass buys new camera.
Oh geez, there we go.
That's like believable.
But don't forget, I believe we will probably have the upfronts to talk about next week.
Oh,
So,
actually, that's
Yeah.
we're not getting any negative stuff from that. They're gonna.
no, but we'll have
Yeah.
like hopefully some stuff to talk about for the upfront.
Well, actually, that's
See
the
if
thing I'm
Will Smith
wondering.
shows
I-
up to smack Pedowitz.
Well, what do you think if it's? Would you want Zaslav Pedowitz like jelly wrestling?
Yes,
I-
actually, that would be actually kind of entertaining.
Why?
As
Oh,
a
dude.
CBS
so hard.
president or the Paramount president, to get it like a three-way
All
tag
right.
team.
Oh no. No. All right. On that note, we're
Royal
out.
Rumble.
See everyone.